the best kinds of jobs are the ones that you get by accident. And I guess I've been teaching for about 4 years when I got my first job by accident. I was in my office and I got a phone call. I was just getting ready to leave. And I picked up the phone and answered. And on the other line, I heard a deep sigh. And as soon as the person who was calling me introduced herself, I knew exactly why. Um, it was the International Studies Department, and they had sort of an emergency. They needed somebody to cover several classes because they had a big enrollment, and somehow my name came up. Not exactly sure whose idea it was, but presumably they didn't know my history of sort of erratic creative behavior in the classroom. But the person calling did. And this person has considered me a jackass for many, many, many years. And I think she was really disappointed that I answered the phone because she probably would have been happier if they could have found anybody else, which I can understand. But I happened to be free. So I was teaching in my little teacherly way in faculty hall. And the emergency was such that she said, look, we are going to need somebody to cover some ESL classes. Would you be available? And I said, well, give me a couple days to think about it because the semester is just getting started. And she goes, you don't understand. Our semester is starting in 2 days, yes or no? It's like, okay, yes. And this should be a lesson to anybody who's paying attention. Never agree to something if you don't have all the details. So, in the International Studies Department, they have 8-week courses instead of 16-week courses. So you teach twice as fast in half the time. I think that's how the math works. And you don't teach the same slate of classes each time. Like the first half of the semester, I might teach a couple reading and composition classes. And then the second half, I might teach pronunciation or grammar or error detection or something like that. But as things worked out, I ended up teaching reading and some writing. So I went over there and was told about the curriculum and figured out what my classes were and sort of managed to coordinate it as best I could. And things went interestingly, to say the least, because I wasn't really used to the culture over there, which required me to attend meetings and keep records of student attendance and things like that. And I take a little bit different approach to taking attendance and excused absences and things like that. So that was a little bit of a culture shock for me. But more shocking culturally was the nature of how the students like to approach their work. This is one of the stupid stories. I was teaching a level 3 composition class, which at that level in ESL, students should be able to write a paragraph with a topic sentence that is coherent throughout. And I had students from all cultures in there, but one student in particular had zero interest in doing the homework, and it wasn't like it was really complex stuff. It wasn't like I was loading them down or anything because I had my other 3 or 4 courses at the university that I was teaching, so I couldn't keep up with a lot of additional grading. But this student came from a culture that liked to negotiate a lot. And we were getting close to the end of the semester, and the final assignment was just to write a couple of paragraphs, use a transition between the two, and make a coherent 3-paragraph story or something like that. And so he came up to me while I was letting the students just do homework sort of stuff in their free time. And I have to say, this guy had a presence. He was about a foot shorter than me, and he wore a lot of Stetson cologne. And you might be thinking a lot is like the elevator ride is kind of unpleasant with somebody wearing a lot of cologne. No. Mm-mm. No. Think of forest fires. You know, acres and acres, hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of acres burning. All of that smoke coming off of there. Now imagine that it smells like Stetson cologne. That's what this kid smelled like. Like the whole room could have been flammable. Luckily, I don't smoke or spontaneously combust. Comes up to me and puts his arm around my shoulder, which he has to kind of reach up for. And I'm not a tall person, so this was odd. He pulls me aside a bit. He's like, "Professor," like, "Yeah, what? We need to talk." Like, "No, this is writing class. Pronunciation is down the hall." I need to pass class. Like, no shit. So why are we having this conversation? All you have to do is write. Look, I tell you something. My uncle is worth at least $50 million. This university need new building. You want your name on this building? Okay, I see where you're going with this, and I need to tell you all the reasons why this could not possibly happen. Put your name on building. Look very good. Ladies like building named after guy. I don't think that's going to work. I mean, the university would love to get a free building, but I guarantee you they're not putting my name on it. There's plenty of distinguished alumni and former presidents that they could plaster the name of onto that building. You tell me, what do I need to do to pass class? I'm like, okay. The offer that you've made is very generous because I'm trying to negotiate too. But my counteroffer is that you sit down and write me an entire paragraph with a topic sentence and cohesive structure throughout, then use a transition sentence to move into a second paragraph that relates to that first one, and you should be able to squeak out a C or a B in this class. But what about the building? Forget about the building. It's not going to happen. I think your uncle would be happier not to spend the amount of money it costs to put a building on this campus if you would just write a paragraph. And long story short, he never bothered to do the homework. He kept trying to negotiate with me, and I kept telling him to just do the homework because it would have been way easier for me. There would have been a lot less paperwork involved, but I never quite persuaded him to get around to that. But that whole semester is basically one long stupid work story because I overbooked myself. I had office hours that I had to maintain in faculty hall. I had my 3 or 4 classes, a bunch of students relying on me. Then I would have to run from faculty hall to Woods Hall to get to my office to have office hours required there. And that is one long ass building. So I was having to run to my classes and then back, and sometimes do so in a shark costume. But I somehow made it through that semester. And I realized that I should never put myself in a position to be that desperate for money again. So instead of opening myself up to that, I found myself a side job. And that side job is the pizza place job. And I think the first story about that is going to come tomorrow, because the pizza place is just a magical place of wonder. I learned so much about what it means to really screw around on the job, that I may have to call in some consultants in order to help support all of the stupid stories that come out of there, because some of them may actually prove to be unbelievable. Stay tuned, it gets worse.